Welcome to Truth and Testimony, the broadcast, where we teach and discuss the Word of God. You'll also hear about world news and how it relates to Bible prophecy, plus interviews and testimonials from men and women of God who have devoted their lives to serving Yeshua, Jesus Christ our Lord. Now, without further ado, let's get to our host, Adrian Scott.
Join the dark side. Oh, wait.
I'm sorry. That's my other channel. Greetings. I am Adrian Scott, and this is Truth and Testimony, the broadcast. Let me hide my receding hairline and put my eyes on so that I can actually see. There we go. Shalom. You know, I have been known to be kind of a quirky guy with a weird sense of humor, and frankly, I want to try and bring a little bit of that into my videos. Why not? That's a part of who I am. So today, this is going to be a first in kind of a series of videos that I want to do where I'm covering the topic of creation and evolution. In this first video, I want to talk a little bit about the age of the Earth. And, really, the viewpoint is one of two things, typically speaking, that it's a young Earth or that it's an old Earth. And I think that connects to the idea that there's two worldviews. There's the humanist worldview. There's where you get your old world. And then there's your biblical worldview, and that's where you get your young Earth. Now, of course, just to muddy the waters a little bit more, there's even debate within the biblical community on young or old Earth, that it is difficult to explain how the creation account is told. So some people have proposed theories. Really, I think most of these theories were proposed as a method to merge the evolutionary view of an old Earth with the young Earth that seems to be stated in the Bible. So we ended up with things like the day-age theory and the gap theory. And maybe I'll do some videos where I'll talk about those a little bit more. But just know that they are things that are out there. Again, if you want to look up that stuff on your own, they are two things that just insert lengthy periods of time between the days recorded in the Genesis record. And one of the things we're going to do in a moment is we are actually going to open up the Bible, and I want to read Genesis chapter 1, or Bereshit in Hebrew, which translates as in the beginning. But I want to take a moment and just kind of stay with the worldview thing, just because that really has a major, major impact on every other thing. And a great example, an example that I could give of this is something I heard someone talk about, and apparently this was an actual thing, but there was an archaeological dig that was occurring at some time, and they had found some dinosaur bones in the ground. Now, there were two archaeologists on this team, well, at least two. I think maybe they were the two leads. But one of them was a secular archaeologist, definitely coming at things from the humanist worldview, and the other was a Christian archaeologist, coming at things from a creation worldview. And so the thing that's interesting to note is that both of them were in complete agreement that there were bones in the ground. They're standing there looking at them. That is observational, empirical science. That's right there. You can't dispute it. But depending on their worldviews, both of them had radically different stories on how those bones got there. And without even getting into the detail, that just really illustrates the difference in worldviews. So there are still things that we can agree on, even with the different worldviews, but they are two diametrically opposing worldviews, and they are at war with each other. One is right, one is not. And I used to believe one, now I believe the other. So I'm not going to sit here and slight anyone or try to throw anyone under the bus or say anyone's stupid. It's not about that. It's not about how educated or smart or dumb or anything else anyone. It's really not about that. There are some extremely intelligent people on both sides of the spectrum. It is, how would you describe that? It's your life. It's what you've grown up knowing. It is what you've been taught and trained and conditioned with. And breaking that programming was a very difficult thing for me. It actually was much easier for me transitioning from regular Christianity to Hebrew roots than it was from being an evolutionist to being a biblical believer. That was a much more difficult jump for me. And that is one thing I do like to point out. I mean, it's not like I'm sitting here talking about this stuff in a place of folly, like it's some joke. I know that from firsthand experience that this really can be quite world-shattering. I had to change an enormous portion of how I lived my life. And there were things that I used to believe and used to do that I had to put aside. And it was not easy doing any of that. And I just want to emphasize that I understand that. And it's not about finger wagging and I'm better than you and you're dumb because you don't understand. I was that dumb guy that didn't understand, and how much better off am I now? I mean, I'm still learning. It's an ongoing process. So the difference in worldviews really is going to affect how you interpret pretty much everything. And this goes right down to stuff like dating methods, radiocarbon dating, where depending on how you're looking at it, you can come to two different conclusions. One example I can think of there is they actually had a case where there was a team, or a couple of individuals anyways, where they had some, I think it was a woolly mammoth specimen, and they took two portions of this and sent it to two different labs to have it carbon dated. And the results that they got back, this is results on a fossil that is, I think it was maybe 10,000 years old is the idea. And they were tens, might have even been hundreds, but at least tens of thousands of years apart, the results. Both carbon dating, that's how wildly variant the results could be. And it just shows that it's not as infallible and foolproof a method of doing things as some try to pass it off to be. Which goes back to an earlier point that I made, that for me, it wasn't even about discovering what is right or what is wrong, but more that what I had been taught and told was so definite and so proven and conclusive that it's just not as proven and conclusive as I had been taught and told. That was the big shift for me. Because then you just got to start questioning everything like I did. And so, I mean, the dating methods, that's one. There is an idea between theory and empirical science. None of these are topics that I can really speak of as an expert. I have listened to people that are astrophysicists and geologists and biologists and chemists and anthropologists that believe in a young Earth, teach a young Earth, and can provide evidence to back up what they believe. And I've heard people on the other side too. And so I really leave it to them to get into the nitty-gritty of stuff. I can only speak really from my heart on this one. I can get some cursory information, but I'm not an expert and I don't pretend to be. I'm not a scientist. I just play one on TV or on YouTube. So, one of the ones that really stuck out to me with this idea of the age of the earth is with the teaching of evolution. My observation was that what I saw them doing was trying to pass off macroevolution and microevolution and conflating the two things, calling it evolution. But what they're actually talking about is microevolution, but then stating it as macroevolution that it happened. So the idea of macroevolution would effectively be a dog turning into a rabbit. That's one animal turning into another. That's macroevolution. Microevolution would be variations within a kind. So you can have a long-haired dog, a short-haired dog. You can have dogs with long legs and short legs. You can have dogs with different sized ears. And it's all based on the environment that they're in and the circumstances they have. If you're in the frozen north, you need more fur to stay warm. So those breeds tend to be furrier. If you're in very hot climates, not so much. The long fur is going to be a problem. So they tend to be very short-haired breeds of dogs. But they're all dogs. So that is microevolution, variations within a kind. And microevolution is absolutely true. There isn't any dispute about that, I don't think. Macroevolution, there has never been any shred of scientific evidence stating that any animal has ever turned into any other kind of animal. There's theories galore, and there's theories with a lot of, not evidence, I would even say, but a lot of thought behind them, where they can wax long and hard about, how conclusive this is. But there's never physically been a shred of evidence. I can always think of, one of the classic ones with humanity, human beings, that there's always been this search for what they call the missing link that takes us from what we are now to the apes that they purport us to have come from. And you've had Lucy and you have had all these different things. None of them have panned out. Some of them have turned out to be flagrant, intentional hoaxes. Others, I think, were just what's the word I'm trying to think of? They misunderstood the evidence they were seeing. And frankly, I think the result of that misunderstanding comes from the difference in worldviews. Because someone that's a creationist worldview, they'll see that evidence and say, oh, well, look at the incredible design of that. That really speaks of an incredible creator, God. And the evolutionary or the humanist worldview would just say that this stuff is randomly formed over millions or billions of years, really by happenstance. So they'll look at the same evidence and interpret it differently. We'll just have to leave it at that. One of the other things that got touched on by a number of teachers that I had followed throughout the years is this idea of irreducible complexity. So that's things like the eye and the reproductive system. In particular, I'll talk about the eye of humans and reproductive system, but it can relate to other things as well. That the eye and the way that it works in a human being only works the way it is now. If you change any part of that system, you don't have vision, you don't have sight. And so that is irreducibly complex. It must exist the way it is in order to function. And the human reproductive system is the same way. If you change any part of that process, it falls apart and it doesn't work. So there's no room for millions of years of evolution of the reproductive system. It either was the way it is now, or we're not here. And that was a big one for me, is that idea of irreducible complexity. And there's other things that fall into that category. Once again, I'm not an expert, so I'm not going to try to spend too much time on it. But it is a topic that's out there, and it's another one you can search for. Irreducible complexity. There are evidences on Earth for a young Earth. There are evidences in space for a young Earth. You just need to seek that evidence out. And if you are the way that I was and believe in that evolutionary view, I guess all I can say is just challenge yourself to try to keep an open mind. You may look at the information and just say, well, it doesn't make any sense to me. I believe what I believe. That's all right, but don't be so complacent that you think you've got it all figured out and you know it all, right? And don't just take somebody else's word for it. Try to educate yourself and keep an open mind. I acknowledge on anything that I am talking about, anything that I believe, that I could potentially be wrong. So I always try to factor that into how I present myself and how I communicate with others, and just be ready that if the evidence is presented to me that is conclusive, that I was incorrect on something, that I'm willing to acknowledge that I was incorrect and I can make that change. And I just would challenge anyone who's locked into a particular mindset to try to do the same thing. It's a daunting task, no doubt about it. But I think I've rambled on enough. We should take a moment and let's actually read Genesis chapter 1. And let's see what the creation account says, and maybe we can get some insights from that. All right, Genesis, or Bereshit, which translates as in the beginning, chapter 1. And I mean, there's a little thing for you with Hebrew and the naming of the Bible and the different sections and Torah portions and everything is often the name of the chapter or the name of the book relates to the first thing that is said or the first topic that's kind of discussed within that book. So it's a pretty simple naming scheme, really, and is evidenced right here. In the beginning, Elohim, or God, created the heavens and the earth. So there's Bereshit, in the beginning. Bereshit bara Elohim, boy oh boy, my Hebrew is rusty, hold on. Bereshit bara Elohim et ha-shamayim ve'et haaretz. There we are. I just read that in Hebrew. Hey, I do know some Hebrew. So that's the first verse in Hebrew. In the beginning, Elohim, or God, created the heavens and the earth. And the earth came to be formless and empty, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And the Spirit of Elohim was moving on the face of the waters. And Elohim said, "Let light come to be." And light came to be. And Elohim saw the light, that it was good. And Elohim separated the light from the darkness. And Elohim called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the first day. And Elohim said, "Let an expanse come to be in the midst of the waters, and let it separate the waters from the waters." And Elohim made the expanse, and separated the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it came to be so. And Elohim called the expanse heavens. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the second day. And Elohim said, "Let the waters under the heavens be gathered together into one place, and let the dry land appear." And it came to be so. And Elohim called the dry land earth, and the collection of the waters he called seas. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, "Let the earth bring forth grass, the plant that yields seed, and the fruit tree that yields fruit according to its kind, whose seed is in itself on the earth." And it came to be so. And the earth brought forth grass, the plant that yields seed according to its kind, and the tree that yields fruit, whose seed is in itself according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning the third day. And Elohim said, "Let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens, to separate the day from the night. And let them be for signs and appointed times, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens, to give light on the earth." And it came to be so. And Elohim made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night and the stars. And Elohim set them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And Elohim saw that it was good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the fourth day. And Elohim said, Let the waters teem with shoals of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth on the face of the expanse of the heavens. And Elohim created great sea creatures, and every living creature that moves, with which the waters teemed, according to their kind, and every winged bird according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim blessed them, saying, Bear fruit and increase, and fill the waters in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the fifth day. And Elohim said, Let the earth bring forth the living creature according to its kind, livestock and creeping creatures, and beasts of the earth according to its kind. And it came to be so. And Elohim made the beast of the earth according to its kind, livestock according to its kind, and all that creep on the earth according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. And Elohim said, Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures that creep on the earth. And Elohim created the man in his image. In the image of Elohim he created him, male and female he created them. And Elohim blessed them, and Elohim said to them, Bear fruit and increase, and fill the earth and subdue it, and rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over all creatures moving on the earth. And Elohim said, See, I have given you every plant that yields seed which is on the face of all the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed to you, for it is for food, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to every creeping creature on the earth in which there is life. Every green plant is for food. So don't you dare go pick on those vegans. And it came to be so. And Elohim saw all that he had made, and see, it was very good. And there came to be evening, and there came to be morning, the sixth day. And I'm going to read just the first verse of chapter 2. Thus the heavens and the earth were completed, and all their array. And on the seventh day Elohim completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. And Elohim blessed the seventh day and set it apart, because on it he rested from all his work which Elohim in creating had made. So there we go. Now there's a few things that I do want to touch on. The first one is, in each of the accounting of those days, what did we read? That there was evening and there was morning, and it was the second day, and the evening and the morning, and it was the third day, and so on and so forth. That does not sound like thousands of years to me. That sounds like there was an evening, and in the morning, the next day started. And there were 6 of those literal days. And on the 7th day, God rested, and that is the Shabbat. That is the Sabbath that we should all be keeping. Now, again, if we look at, I think it was Peter that made the comment, because this comes up very frequently, that a day is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day. Well, if that's the case, then every Sabbath is for 1,000 years? Or is it a day of the week? So we've kind of talked about the Sabbath a little bit, but yeah, I think once again it needs to be literal days of creation, and to be a literal day of rest, the 7th day, whichever day that may be. And so that's kind of the big points there of why I now believe that it is a young earth. Now, of course, this is all predicated on the idea that this is true in the first place, right? If the Bible is not true, then, well, we can throw all of that out because none of it's relevant, none of it's true, right? It's all been scientifically proven to be wrong, incorrect. In fact, it seems like, and one of the things I've said I'm interested in is archaeology. And it just seems like every time they make some archaeological dig or there's some sort of scientific discovery outside of archaeology, that it comes from a bunch of people that really have no interest in proving the authenticity of the Bible, but what they find actually proves the authenticity of the Bible. I'm sure there's cases that can be found that don't do that, but it does surprise me how many times there have been cases that, in fact, do that. So that's another one you can look into, biblical archaeology, and there's some great material online for that one too. Yeah, so with that account, we've got the different things going on. And what was the other one I wanted to mention? It was yes, Elohim creating man in his image. So with the fall of Hasatan, the adversary, the devil, whatever you would like to call him, he's smart enough to know that he is doomed to not succeed, that he will not be victorious over God. He's already lost. It's just a case of waiting for things to unfold for that final defeat to be revealed. And he can't attack God. Right? He wants to be as high as God. He can't attack God. But what can he attack? He can attack that which was created in God's image. So, boy howdy, has he been attacking humanity. And I really believe that those concepts of evolution, the millions and billions of years, all of these things, dinosaurs, all of these topics have been tools of Hasatan to lead man away from God. Because when you are in the will of God, I've said it before, there is nowhere safer to be than in the will of God. And if he can lead you out of the will of God, you're fair game. We're all fair game if we are functioning outside of the will of God. So there's a sermon to be preached there. Another one is the animals and each thing being created in its kind. So we may talk about this in a separate video in more detail, but the idea of Noah's Ark and what was loaded on there. Of course, one of the standard arguments has been, well, there's no way they could fit all the species of the animals on that one boat. That's true. I actually wouldn't dispute that. But they didn't need to load every species of animal on that boat. They just needed to load 2 of each basic kind, because all of your long-haired, short-haired, long-legged, short-legged, old age, young, black, white, brown, anything else dog were all going to be in the 2 dogs that they brought onto the ark. And yes, I do think that dinosaurs were on the ark. You see, the big dinosaurs, this is a classic line from another fella that I really like. The big dinosaurs were big, but the little dinosaurs were little. And wouldn't it make sense that they would load the little ones on the ark? Young ones as well, because they're going to live longer. They'll be around longer to reproduce once the ark lands. And yeah, there's a whole other topic there. I'll have to talk about that one a little bit, dinosaurs, but I think there's a substantial body of evidence that dinosaurs are not as old as we have been taught, which goes back to my belief in the young earth. Because if the earth is the age that I believe that it is, based on my reading of the Bible, then it would be somewhere in the range of about 6,000 years old. We don't have the exact starting time frame and everything, but it's in that general area, within that proximity. One of the ways that we can come up with that, by the way, is if you go through the genealogies of the Bible from Adam through to Noah, and from Noah through to everyone else, you just connect all the names and add the ages. What you come up with is round about 6,000 years. So, yeah, just another evidence for that. But each thing made in its kind. So not a million different species, right? You have horses and zebras and different animals like that. They all came from a horse kind. They're variations within a horse kind. All the different cats we see, they're variations within the cat kind. the birds, their variations within the bird kind. In fact, it extends even to the fruit-bearing trees and the seed of the earth, that it's all in its kind. So when you get into stuff where they're crossing and mixing seed to create different hybrids of plants, I don't think that's a good thing. And I think sometimes there may even be a good reason, what they think is a good reason to try and do it, to maybe make something hardier, that it'll survive in a different climate that it wouldn't otherwise normally survive in. But couldn't we just not eat that in that climate and have something a little closer to natural foods that are not messed around with? Yeah, that's a whole other one. But yeah, so the basic things of its kind. I think I'm pretty much going to wrap it up there. There's more to talk about, and I think some of the videos I want to do will actually be, I will get some case examples of things that were just not as old as they may have passed off to try to be. An example is fossilized remains of stuff. You know, it's kind of hard to argue that it takes tens or hundreds of thousands of years for things to fossilize when they're finding fossilized cowboy boots that date back to 1954. Like, they could look at the brand on the boot and find out exactly when that boot was manufactured, but it was completely fossilized. So, yeah, I wish I had a little more scientific understanding of all that stuff, but I'm going to have to leave it there. Like I said, I will maybe come up with some case examples and just do an interesting rundown of some different examples of stuff like that. But by a simple reading of Genesis chapter 1, it would seem to indicate to me that the earth was created, the earth and the universe were created in 6 literal days, and on the 7th literal day, God rested, set it apart, and it is the day of rest we are to be observing now. We'll continue this topic in the next video. Before I ramble on anymore, I'm just going to wrap it up there. If you do have any comments, please feel free to leave them below. I know we do have it set to be reviewed, but just because we are trying to keep things clean. There's a lot of nastiness out there. I know the haters are going to hate, but we need to do the best effort we can to just keep our channel and the stuff on it and the content and the comments clean. Otherwise, you can always email us. The email it's in the description below, but it'll also be at the tag at the end of the video here. Other than that, if you like the video, give her a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. Share and subscribe. Those subscriptions and sharing it and all of those things help the algorithm, and just boosts us up. And frankly, it lets us know and encourages us to keep doing what we're doing and strive to even do it better and to do more of it. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. I wish blessings to all of you in the name of Yeshua, our Messiah, Jesus Christ, and I bid you shalom.
You've been listening to Truth and Testimony, the broadcast. If you have a comment, please leave it on the bottom of this video or email us at truthandtestimonyemail@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Truth and Testimony, the broadcast, is not affiliated with Truth and Testimony magazine.